Welcome back to the Upside Sports Network. My name is Michael. Appreciate you guys joining us on a busy Tuesday evening at the winter meetings. Compared to last night, today is a veritable frenzy. Just a few trades in the last couple of hours. One of them we posted about just a few minutes ago here at the Upside Sports Network. You guys can check that one out on our page. Alex Verdugo goes from the Boston Red Sox to the New York Yankees, two of the most bitter rivals in all of sports. Complete a trade just the 7th time in the last 50 years, the first time since 2014. Congratulations, Yankees and Red Sox fans. Y'all have made some history today. Verdugo kind of fills in that center field, corner outfield role for them. He has his limitations in center field, hasn't played a whole lot there in center since he's been traded to Boston, but maybe he's able to recapture some of his youth, recapture some of his prospect status that he once had. It is going to be his walk year, I believe, and so a good acquisition here for the Yankees. They get a corner outfielder, center fielder, somebody that can play at both spots, and more importantly, he's a left-handed hitter, so this balances out the lineup as well. This does not preclude them from going after Juan Soto, Cody Bellinger, any of their other free agent targets or trade targets as well. So a good move here just to kind of give them some leverage at the table, that they're not completely committed to Juan Soto, but in all reality, he is the beginning, middle, and end of their free agency / trade season right now. They absolutely need him on their team. They are desperate to get him on their team. I would dare say that Cashman's job rides on Soto coming back or coming to the Yankees and them winning a postseason series this season. If they don't get Soto, they miss out on Yamamoto. There's not too many free agent targets or trade targets out there that could make a difference for the Yankees. Cashman seems to believe that the roster he already has will be better just from an injury standpoint, positive regression standpoint, and he may be correct. But are we talking about a team that's able to compete with the likes of Baltimore or Tampa in their own division? And if Toronto somehow manages to get Shohei Ohtani, are they better than Toronto either? That remains to be seen for what the Yankees roster ultimately shakes out to be. But they need to get one of those aircraft carriers in there this offseason, whether it be Yamamoto, whether it be Soto, whether it be Bellinger. I believe they need to go after one of those aircraft carrier type of players, and we'll see if they're able to get it done. Appreciate you guys joining us. Mark, Jordan, Paul, appreciate you guys already joining us as well. The waiting game continues here in Canada. Come on, Shohei. Well, Shohei Ohtani, of course, the biggest free agent on the market, not going to be able to pitch this next season. However, we're starting to get more than a few leaks about his free agency, which is far more than we had, say, a week ago. We're starting to get rumblings that he met with the Blue Jays front office down in Dunedin, Florida, at the spring training complex for the Toronto Blue Jays. Ross Atkins supposedly was there in attendance, so that was a good sign here. If you're a Blue Jays fan, that you're at least in contention, and that he's at least making the effort to travel to Florida to meet your staff. He's very much about routine, having his own autonomy, all those kinds of things. He doesn't really care too much about the nightlife or anything like that. He wants to play baseball, he wants to win, and he wants to stick to his routine and stick to his craft and make himself better and better. So I would not be surprised if, after all, Toronto now actually wins the sweepstakes for Shohei Ohtani. Told you guys it was kind of a pipe dream earlier this offseason. Then I told you it's probably around a 2% chance. I'd raise that all the way up to 25% now for Toronto to ultimately get it done. I'm still not ruling out the favorite as far as the LA Dodgers, but the news there is that Dave Roberts confirmed that they actually met with him and spoke to reporters basically as, hey, I'm an honest guy. I want to tell you the truth. I'm not going to try to hold things or be dishonest. And apparently that rubbed people the wrong way in the front office there for the LA Dodgers. Brandon Gomes and Andrew Friedman both have come out and said, hey, we're not allowed to talk about free agents at all or any ongoing process. They've talked about free agents before. It's specific for Shohei is why they're saying that. And then Brandon Gomes comes out there and says, hey, not really sure why he said that, but no, we weren't expecting him to say anything like that. Frankly, we were surprised he commented at all on Shohei's status as far as the free agency process for him goes. The industry has basically been, devoid of any real rumors surrounding Shohei Ohtani, and that's by design. He does not want this to be in the media, and so we'll see if this punishes if he punishes the Dodgers for letting some of this out. I'm sure he had a positive meeting with the Dodgers. I mean, how could you not? They're, the model franchise for the past 10 years, but are they going to continue to be? They showed their limitations this past season. Even in a regression year, they still made the postseason, but how much more of this can they really take on without reinventing themselves, spending the free agent dollar this offseason, bringing in not only Shohei, but multiple starting pitchers into that starting rotation, whether it be Yamamoto, Snell, Montgomery has been a name that's been tossed around over the last 24 hours as well, along with the New York Mets being interested in Montgomery if they miss on Yamamoto as well. So we'll see what this means for Shohei's market. I'm still not convinced that there's not a dark horse team, a mystery team in this, but it sounds like we're down to the big four: Dodgers, Blue Jays. The Angels are still in there, I believe. The Cubs initially were ruled out earlier today, but Jed Hoyer essentially went to the podium and said, no, I haven't had any confirmation that we're in or out of the sweepstakes. We're just happy to be a part of the conversation. He didn't give away any details. He didn't say they had met with them. All he said is that they're in on all free agents and that they're in there for everybody. So we'll see what this means as far as the Cubs fan base, as far as the Dodgers fan base. I'm sure a lot of Blue Jays fans are out there more than a little excited about the possibility of getting the biggest free agent to ever hit the market. And this is a year after we had Aaron Judge hit the market for, 9 years, $360 million is what he signed for. But unfortunately, it doesn't look like we're going to get him signed at the winter meetings. Remember to hit that subscribe button, turn on your alerts, and whenever any breaking news does hit, we will go live for you from the winter, any news from the winter meetings. And then, of course, if the Shohei news hits anyway, we will go live as well. We do our daily updates for you guys every single weekday evening anyway. If you guys want to hit that subscribe button, join us over there on X as well, at UpsideSN. We would greatly appreciate it. Spam that heart in the chat if you don't mind as well. Certainly helps out our viewership. We're up to about 17 viewers right now. Let's see if we can pump that over 20 here in the next few minutes. Great to see you too, Paul. Everything pointing towards him being a Blue Jay, Jordan. I'm not sure that's completely accurate. I mean, he is taking meetings with the Blue Jays. I'd say that this is probably the most positive news you could expect if you're a Blue Jays fan. If you're hoping for more news to come out, aside from, hey, he's agreed to sign somewhere, I would say if you're hoping for that news, you're hoping your team doesn't get him. The reason why? Shohei does not want that news out there. He wants it all to be private. So if you're hoping your team is still in it, the last thing you want to hear right now is any further confirmation that he's met with your team, that your ownership group is happy with the progress of the talks. You don't want to hear any of those rumors if you're hoping to get Shohei. So we'll see what ultimately happens there. Dodgers manager fumbled when he leaked the conversation. Could not agree more. I'm kind of surprised that he went to the media and, as an honest guy, didn't realize that this could hurt his team's chances to possibly get the free agent. I understand he wants to be honest with the media, but it's not his free agency. It's Shohei Ohtani's free agency. As much as the industry, as much as we might like Shohei to be in the public eye and to let us enjoy his free agency period, the one true free agent that's a pitcher and a hitter, all-star on both sides, the best player in about 100 years to hit the market anyway. And, we would love to be able to celebrate this process with him, but he wants to enjoy this very privately, and you can't fault him for that. It's his decision, not Dave Roberts, not mine, not anybody in the media. It's Shohei Ohtani's decision. Blue Jays manager smartly didn't comment. Absolutely agree with you there. Welcome in, John. Appreciate you for joining us once again. I'm waiting for my team to sign Mitch Keller. Bulls Nation, appreciate you for joining us. They did just make a trade. Let me go ahead and flip over to that screen for you guys. Pittsburgh Pirates have acquired Marco Gonzalez and cash from the Atlanta Braves for a player to be named later. This coming from Jeff Passan. We knew he was going to be flipped to a different team after the Kelenic trade late Sunday night. They said that they really wanted to platoon Kelenic out there in left field for them. Evan White was going to be a good piece for them, but Marco Gonzalez is not the front of the rotation starter that the Braves have been looking for this offseason, so they're looking to move him on somewhere else. The reason he was a part of that trade was to get off of the money for him if you're Seattle. So Seattle's looking to do big things. The Braves are looking to do big things. The Pirates, though, strengthen their starting staff, get a number 4 or 5 type starter, a good veteran presence in that starting rotation. He kind of fits the mold of what we were looking at last year for their rotation, with Kyle Gibson possibly going there. Ultimately, he went on to the Baltimore Orioles. So maybe this is the type of acquisition that will help those young starters in Pittsburgh. Remember, Paul Skeens is going to make his big league debut at some point this year. He is going to be their next Garrett Cole, their next ace of that staff. Keller, of course, is still there. I would not rule out another trade for a starting pitcher, maybe trading off Bednar. We've talked about that multiple times so far this offseason, about them trading Bednar for an established major league starter. We specifically mentioned Dane Dunning as a possibility from Texas, since they are desperate for some relief help. On that note, the Texas Rangers, we put out a video earlier today, have acquired Kirby Yates, 1 year, $4.5 million. Atlanta Braves former reliever, former San Diego Padres all-star closer. Had some injury issues in the as recently as 2 years ago, but really pitched well last year. 11.9 Ks per 9, 5.5 walks per 9. Those a little bit worrisome if you're a Ranger fan. They already have struggled with walks the last couple of years. The front office, the manager, the pitching coach really hate issuing walks. So Kirby Yates, 1 year, $4.5 million deal. Good deal overall, gives them some depth, somebody who's closed before. Reminds me a lot of the Will Smith signing last year, a good veteran with maybe a higher ceiling. This time anyway, with Kirby Yates than Will Smith. We'll see if they bring back Will Smith as well, but they have a number of pitchers that are still on the free agent block right now, including some starting pitching. Jordan Montgomery. We touched on Jordan Montgomery a little bit ago anyway, but Montgomery seems to be a favorite for the Texas Rangers right now. The question will be, do they have the money to be able to get it done? Chris Young basically silenced a lot of those rumors today, saying, no, we have the money. We can go out there. We can be in there on any single free agent. When he was asked specifically about Shohei Ohtani, he said, in repeat, the Texas Rangers are in there on every single free agent, no matter the cost. So, understandably, they might not spend at the level they have the last 2 off seasons, but if there's an opportunity, it sounds like Chris Young has the blessing from ownership to be able to make the moves necessary to get it done. Shohei, though, is holding up this market. If they win the bidding for him, I'd be shocked at this point, but if they do, that'd be fantastic. If they don't, it'll at least clear off some of the logjam around the industry, maybe even get some of these trades going even faster. We've had a couple of trades tonight already, so we'll get into some of those here in just a moment as well. Appreciate you guys joining us. Vinny, Paul, Bulls Nation, if you guys wouldn't mind hitting the like and subscribe on the video if you haven't already. Turn on your alerts here at the Upside as well. Spam that 100 in the chat. Certainly does help us out. We're up to 19 viewers. We're close to that 20 mark. Let's see if we can push it over that here in the next few moments. Hey, Mike, anything new with the Mets? Not too much aside from the Jordan Montgomery news that we had just spoken about. Also, Eric Fedde was one of the free agents that they were supposedly in contention for with the Chicago White Sox. White Sox look like they get the deal done. 2 years, $15 million, whereas yesterday it looked like that market was around 1 year, $5 million. White Sox obviously need some innings out of that rotation. The KBO MVP last year, Eric Fetty, the former Washington Nationals prospect, looking to establish himself on the major league circuit anyway. We'll see if he's able to do so with Chicago. They need some guys who can eat some innings. They got some guys from the Atlanta Braves in the Aaron Bummer trade. This is another acquisition that's going to help them in the long run. Reminds me a lot of the Miles Mikolas signing for the St. Louis Cardinals years ago. So those of you who are Cardinals fans might remember that he went over to the international leagues anyway, came back and signed a very similar type of a deal. Same thing for Nick Martinez. Hopefully this is the next iteration of that. Pitched to a 2.0 earned run average in the KBO last year with 180 innings pitched. He certainly looks like a much better, more mature pitcher than he ever did with the Nationals. We'll see if that translates to success in the major leagues. You're a Halos fan. I know OHTANI won't sign. I want depth. Mitch Keller would be a great start. Well, I'm just not sure that the Halos have the prospect depth to be able to make a trade like that. As far as OHTANI, I think the Halos are actually in there far more than we would have thought, say, a month ago or even 2 weeks ago. I would put their percentage at possibly re-signing him around 15%. Yesterday, anyway, there was a lot of headlines with Ron Washington saying there's a lot of stuff y'all don't know about, essentially, that we'll see what we see, that kind of thing. Kind of smoke and mirrors, and that kind of tipped everybody, or perked up everybody's interest that maybe they're actually in there for Shohei OHTANI a lot harder than we thought. And I believe that is the case. I'm just not necessarily sure how far ahead of where they were originally they are. So it seems like the Blue Jays, the Dodgers seem to be the heavy favorites right now. Cubs, of course, moving a little bit towards the back burner. Braves are supposedly still in there, along with the Giants, and maybe a dark horse team as well. As for the Angels specifically, one bit of headline for them is that Mike Trout is not going to be traded. 100% certainty on that, says GM Perry Manassian. Organizational malpractice is what he did this past season by trading for C.J. Cron and all the other acquisitions they made to try to build this team up around Shohei OHTANI. I guess they were trying to convince him to stay, but we saw how it blew up in their face. They should have traded him 2 years ago. They didn't. They could have really been the next team on the up and come if they had done something like that. Instead, they're going to be the Oakland A's for the next 5 years. So they might spend a little bit better than the A's. They might look a little bit better than the A's, but they are not going to compete at all, just like the Oakland A's. Sorry, Angels fans. Even if you re-sign Shohei, I still don't think there's enough on that enough on that team to be able to get it done, and I don't think they're going to be able to get it done in free agency to be able to build a team around him either. But to answer your question, Vinny, about the Mets, they are still in there on Yamamoto. He's going to come over stateside next week and see how things stand for him as far as with the Giants, Mets, any of the other teams that are still in there, along with the Yankees, Dodgers, Cubs, Cardinals, Red Sox, Blue Jays, Rangers, Braves. Pretty much any team that needs starting pitching is in there for Yamamoto. The one bit of news on him, though, is that everybody thought maybe he'd break the $200 million barrier when free agency began. Sounds like, according to Ken Rosenthal, that market for him is getting closer to $300 million for a guy who's never thrown one single pitch in Major League Baseball. So the market is certainly ticking up for Yamamoto. You can understand why. Looks like a future ace, possibly could be an ace as soon as this season. 25 years old. 25-year-old starting pitchers just do not hit the market, and so that seems to be what's driving the price more than anything else. Plus, he hasn't even started talking to these teams in earnest, taking visits yet. I just can't wait to see how high this number ultimately gets. At this point, I'm expecting north of 275, according to that Rosenthal article, and we could even see it break that $300 million mark. We shall see. Kind of shocked to see the Rays listening on both Rosarena and Paredes. Probably a long shot, but they want to play with the trade estimator. See if the Giants could get one or both. Paul, we'll see if they're able to pull off one or both of those deals, but they would have to deal some of their top-end prospects. I think the Giants are more looking at the free agent market, looking at Yamamoto, looking at Bellinger, pieces like that they can bring in, Blake Snell, rather than the trade market. But we'll play with some of the trade estimator anyway with the Giants and Rays just to see what it would cost to acquire a Rosarena and Paredes. They have a hole at both spots if they decide to bring them in. Welcome in, Ethan. Appreciate you joining us once again. Hit that heart in the chat if you guys don't mind. We're getting close to that 20 mark. Let's see if we can actually get there. If the Rangers sign Trevor Bauer, that would be something else. Seems more like a move for the Astros. Well, Trevor Bauer is going to be coming over to Major League Baseball this season, I do believe. He's basically been cleared of any wrongdoing, has a lawsuit filed against the lady who accused him of things. There's a whole legal thing behind that. If you guys want to read up on all that crazy story, you're more than welcome to. But Trevor Bauer seems to have his name cleared, and we'll see what kind of contract he gets. But remember, he's missed significant time because of that off-field issue. We'll see what kind of effectiveness he has. But he did go international the past season. He still looks like he has enough to be able to be a consistent starting pitcher in the majors. Does he have enough to be an ace anymore? Remains to be seen. So maybe he's got his arm fresh because he's missed all that time, but maybe he's also lost that effectiveness because of that time he has missed. Where do the Rangers focus this offseason with Seager, Simeon, Bruce Bochy, DeGrom in the house? I think we should invest in quality young pitchers, a.k.a. Yamamoto. So, John, I couldn't agree with you more. Young starting pitching would be absolutely fantastic for this Rangers team. However, I say a big however here because they're looking to bring back Yamamoto. Bring back Montgomery, not Yamamoto. They're still looking to bring back some of their other pieces and build out that bullpen before they go necessarily for a Yamamoto type. Now, I'm not saying they won't do it. They've surprised us before. Heck, they could be in there for Shohei right now. They could be in there for Yamamoto. Heck, they could even pull in both. Who knows with this Rangers front office lately. But I think they're more focused on bringing back Montgomery and building out that bullpen before they go the Yamamoto route. If there's an opportunity, if there's a weakness in the market, if there's an opportunity for Chris Young to get in there, and if Yamamoto wants to come to Texas, I'm sure Chris Young will find a way to figure out, how he can finagle this as far as finances go. But I think the Rangers are looking at other things rather than Yamamoto right now. But I would love to see it as a Rangers fan. So right there with you, John. I just don't think that they're ultimately going to get that done. I think they're going to go for Montgomery more than anything else as far as big ticket items. Bulls Nation, I heard rumors Angels are interested in Tim Anderson. Is that true? Yes, that was reported a few weeks ago. That is still accurate. I'm not necessarily sure if that's going to move at all in the next few days or so. I don't think we'll see that at the winter meetings. Right now, I think we're starting to see some of the trade talks that have been happening over the last month finally start to come to fruition. Verdugo was discussed around the trade deadline. That conversation picked up again in the November GM meetings, and now that deal ultimately gets done. Kelenic was traded Sunday. Now we get the Marco Gonzalez deal. We'll see if there's anything else that gets done. Bulls Nation, is it possible Cleveland trade the first overall pick for a top player? No and no. Compensation picks are eligible to be traded, not actual picks. So they cannot trade the number one pick. I would love to see that to be a thing in Major League Baseball, but they do that for a reason. They want to make sure teams at the small market teams are able to hold on to their young talent. And if they want to trade that player later on, so be it. We saw that before with the Arizona Diamondbacks trying to save some salary anyway with the Bronson Arroyo contract, etc. We saw that done. Trying to remember the prospect's name. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but they basically traded a first-round pick from one draft, and then they did the same thing the next year where they traded Dansby Swanson to be able to bring in Shelby Miller as well. So the Braves have been involved in a couple of those types of trades with the Diamondbacks, but you cannot trade the pick itself. You could trade the player you get with that pick after the draft. But to the second part of that question, for a top player, the Guardians are not going to be able to, do that kind of a thing as far as pay top-end talent. They need service time. They need pre-arb players. They need service time of, arb year 1, arb year 2 anyway. Once they get to arb year 3, that's when they're looking to trade those guys. The one bit of news out of Cleveland, though, is that not only are they looking to trade Shane Bieber, but they're also open to dealing Emmanuel Clase. Now, that's not been reported on too much, but it sounds like he is very much available, along with the St. Louis Cardinals outfielder Tyler O'Neill. Both players are being shopped rather aggressively. Clase had a little bit of a down year by his standards. ERA was raised up, strikeout rate was down, walk rate was a little higher, velocity was down a little bit. I wonder if this is, a foreboding sign for Clase of things to come. Had that suspension anyway. I wonder if the Guardians just worry about him being able to recapture the dominance, hater-level dominance that he had a year or so ago. But, a team that needs some relief pitching is going to make a call to Cleveland, and they are going to give him whatever they ultimately need to get done. Texas obviously had him before. The trade anyway for Corey Kluber didn't work out in their favor, obviously. They got Clase and Delino DeShields Jr. in that deal. They got one inning of service out of Kluber before his arm gave out on him, and he ultimately still pitched around for a few more years after that. And but the trade did not work out. But now maybe he comes back to Texas since they need some relief pitching. That could be a fit there. Ethan, when does Jordan Hicks come to Texas anyway. Heard he's going to get 4 years 40 or 5 years 50. I don't think there's any way he gets 5 years, period. No matter the number. 4 years seems like the upper end of his market. 4 years 40 would be probably the roof. I think 3 years 32 is probably more likely, though. Mitigates the risk for as far as long-term payroll. He struggles with walks, struggles with command. High velocity guy, so that does work out well. High strikeout guy as well. Some closing experience, but he's also pitched a lot in the 7th, 8th inning. The trade last year kind of showed the versatility he has with the Toronto Blue Jays, but I'm just not sure he's going to go to the Rangers per se over another team. I know the Phillies are looking for a reliever. There's a lot of teams looking for relief help. I think he's probably going to wait for the Josh Hader signing. He might sign before that if he gets the number he's looking for. If somebody offers him 5 for 50, I think he probably takes it. But I think he ultimately signs for a 3 or a 4 year deal, 4 year 42, 4 year $40 million range, 3 years 32, 3 years $34 million range. Sounds about right for Jordan Hicks. The Rangers try to avoid guys who give up a lot of walks. They just signed Kirby Yates. Very similar type of pitcher, high strikeouts, a little bit higher, more elevated walks than the average pitcher in Major League Baseball, and they did it on 1 year, $4.5 million with some closer experience. I think that almost rules out the possibility of Jordan Hicks. Doesn't slam the door on it because they're still looking for multiple relievers still. Jordan Hicks does fit that bill, but I think they're looking in other directions than Jordan Hicks, at least at the moment. They're still in the wings on that one, though. John Heyman saying that the Mets, along with a number of other teams, are still in there for Jordan Hicks, but I think his market is going to wait for Josh Hader to sign. Could the Dodgers trade for Vlad Guerrero Jr.? They have the pieces to do it. They absolutely could. I just don't think it's going to happen. You look at what it could, or what the acquisition cost would be, and their holes on their team. He would have to be their DH, and if they sign Shohei Ohtani, they have Freddie Freeman. What are they going to do with Vlad? They're going to play him over at third base. He can't play that anymore, and I don't think that would happen. Would be a great fit for him in LA. He'd be a great personality fit for the city. I just don't think it's going to happen. I heard Ohtani say he hates deep dish pizza, so Chicago rescinded their offer. That's one's funny, Mr. Kawasaki. We'll see what ultimately happens with Ohtani, but it seems like the market's starting to crystallize itself around Ohtani, and hopefully, we get some movement on Ohtani here in the next couple of days. Could Colorado trade Chris Bryant to Chicago or to San Diego? Absolutely not. San Diego's looking to cut payroll, not take on money. Colorado has no value right now in Chris Bryant because of all the injuries. He is actually focusing on playing first base this coming season for Colorado because of those injury issues. So we'll see what happens with Chris Bryant if he's able to rebuild his value in Colorado, but do not expect him to be traded to San Diego. San Diego's looking to cut salary. Vlad, a DH, future DH for the Rangers. That actually fits. I mean, his dad did play for the Rangers, had a great year there. I think he would also be a great fit for the LA Angels in a couple of years once he hits free agency. Ron Washington had that personal relationship with Vlad Guerrero Sr., and I think he'd be a great fit out in LA. And LA might actually have some flexibility for payroll to be able to sign a first baseman of his caliber to a long-term deal. So if I had to guess right now, another Canadian named Vlad Guerrero goes from a Canadian team to the LA Angels. Vlad Guerrero Sr., Montreal Expos to the LA Angels. I think Vlad Guerrero Jr. does the same thing. Like father, like son. Couldn't see it work out any better for him at this point. Can't see Ohtani holding up the market much longer, or so we hope anyway, Mr. Kawasaki. I couldn't agree more. It's been brutally slow, one of the slowest winter meetings in recent history. So we'll see if anything does happen. I saw there was a Twitter notification just a moment ago. LA Angels have added to their bullpen signing Luis Garcia, 1 year, $4.25 million. Spent the last 2 years with the San Diego Padres. That coming from Bob Nightingale. Good signing for the Angels to help out their bullpen. They lost a bunch of pieces around the trade deadline, around the waiver deadline as well. They still have Estevez back there as their closer. This gives them a nice setup 7th, 8th inning guy to help lengthen out that bullpen a little bit because their starting pitching leaves a lot to be desired. They usually try to limit that game to a 6. I think the best case scenario for the Angels anyway would be a 6-inning game at best for their starting pitching and then let their bullpen take over from there. I don't think their starters are good enough to go further into a game than that at this point. One player I grew up watching, hoping the Angels was hoping would go to the Angels, is Andrew McCutchen. I don't see them see that happening. Absolutely, it sounds like McCutcheon's looking to re-sign with the Bucks, the Pittsburgh Pirates anyway. If he's going to sign anywhere, good professional hitter, fits well in that clubhouse, fits the timeline of the Pirates right now as something they need, and gives them a little bit of depth. So maybe a 1 year, $3 million deal, something like that could happen there. Pardon me for just a second, seeing a couple of notifications pop up here. There we go. More Marco Gonzalez updates there. Ethan, give me a Dylan Cease package for the Rangers. I'm not going to give you one, unfortunately. I know there's a lot of people out there that are Dylan Cease fans for the Texas Rangers. I just don't see it. I don't see the need to bring him in. They could use some starting pitching. Don't get me wrong. I really hope that doesn't happen if the Rangers try to get him. I mean, he's got 2 years left on his deal, which is great. He's young enough he could recapture his Cy Young abilities. I just worry about him fitting long-term for the Texas Rangers. I'm not sure he's going to get back to the Cy Young level. I think he's still going to get probably a little bit better than he was this past year, where he was a 4.58 ERA, I believe. His advanced metrics show that maybe he was a little bit better than that. But I worry about him getting back to that Cy Young caliber pitcher. I think they want to go after more gamer-type pitchers like Jordan Montgomery if they're going to go after a starting pitcher. Plus, they'd have to give up the prospects to bring in Dylan Cease. What kind of prospects would that ultimately take? You're probably talking about giving up a starting pitcher off of your roster right now, Dane Dunning. You're probably talking about giving up Ezekiel Duran, and then probably another couple pitchers out of your minor league system. No, I don't want any part of that if I'm the Texas Rangers. I would rather spin one or both of those pieces off for a better package, like Tyler Glasnow, for instance. Great pitcher, even better than Dylan Cease in my estimation. However, he's only got 1 year left on his deal, so the cost is going to be a little bit less. And if you acquire him during the offseason, you can still get some compensation back for him if you lose him in free agency next year. He's a little bit higher potential, higher strikeout rates, those kinds of things. I really like Glasnow from the Tampa Bay Rays. It sounds like the Cubs have been discussing him most recently along with the Cincinnati Reds. Cubs were talking about Christopher Morel as a possible return to the Rays for Glasnow. Cubs basically balked at that one, but the Rays are looking to kind of get younger a little bit and save on payroll. So we'll see which way the Rays ultimately go. That's why you're hearing guys like Glasnow, Margot, Paredes, Arozarena as names who could be available from the Rays. Remember that they do not have Shane McClanahan next year, out due to injury. And then they also likely are going to miss Wander Franco for at least the first month of the season, and could miss him for the remainder of his career pending the off-the-field issues. We'll see what happens around the Tampa Bay Rays. Signed Kershaw to a 1 year deal. That would be a decent move, but he's not going to be available till around the All-Star break at best. You're still looking at needing another starting pitcher, even if you do bring in Clayton Kershaw. I think he's going to go back to the Dodgers, if anywhere. And I don't think he's going to retire, but I think he probably signs maybe a 1 or 2 year deal with the LA Dodgers to stay there. It looks like he's kind of reinvented the way he pitches a little bit. But I'd be surprised if he goes anywhere else. If he does go anywhere else, Texas does make some sense. But that's a lot of money to give out that they're going to have to still acquire another starting pitcher to take his spot in the rotation. And remember, he's still going to take up a spot on the 40-man until you get to spring training, and then you can put him on the 60. So it just doesn't fit from a roster construction standpoint from the Rangers to go after Kershaw this season. Milwaukee trades Devin Williams some cash considerations to Minnesota for Nick Gordon and Kyle Farmer. Are you saying that's an actual trade? Bulls Nation, are you saying that's an actual trade? I do not see that one popping up anywhere. Are you just asking about that one as a possibility? Devin Williams, a great closer, great setup guy as well, depending on where you decide to put him in your bullpen. I'm not sure Milwaukee would send out cash, so I wouldn't take that part of it if you're hoping Milwaukee pays for Devin Williams. Kyle Farmer, kind of a nothing part of the return for Milwaukee, though. Nick Gordon would be something for them to hope on, but there's nothing in that trade for Milwaukee to go after there. I mean, they need some starting pitching. They have plenty of outfielders. Nick Gordon probably profiles as a shortstop at best case scenario for the Brewers, but more likely an outfielder. They already have 4 center fielders, young 6 years plus of control on their roster, not to mention Yelich on their roster as well. From an outfield standpoint, they have Adames still at their shortstop. Of course, they could trade him, and then Gordon takes over there, but I just don't see the fit there for that trade. If they're going to trade Devin Williams, if they're going to trade Burns, if they're going to trade Adames, they're going to want starting pitching back in return. I just don't think that ultimately happens. But appreciate you guys joining us once again. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. Certainly does help us out. Let me get this pot back up there just to make sure nothing else is happening. Do you think the Phillies get a guy like Gurriel or Soler? No, I don't think they're going to be in there for DH-type players. I think they're going to be looking for more versatility, athleticism in their outfield. So if they are going to make a move for a fourth, fifth outfielder type or a bat, I think it's going to be for somebody like somebody off of the Rangers roster from last year anyway, a Robbie Grossman type, high on base guy who can still play either corner outfield spot. Not a very sexy name. Not as sexy as Soler, but we're talking about a World Series champion from the Rangers who could come in and be a serviceable player for them and get on base in front of guys like Kyle Schwarber or those kinds of guys at the top of the order, because he's probably going to bat in the 7, 8, 9 spot in that lineup in Philadelphia. So that could be a good fit, better than Gurriel or Soler, because those guys are literally just going to be log gems on that roster. I just don't see the fit there. I think Soler goes to one of the teams that's looking for a DH-type player, like the OHTANI, the Martinez, the Turner. I think the fourth guy on that list would be Soler, Gurriel, maybe the fifth, sixth guy off of that list. I really like Langford and Walcott to come up to the big leagues. Walcott's too far away. He's not going to be in the big leagues probably at best for a year and a half. If Walcott just tears it up for another year and a half, I think he'll probably be up by May or June of not this coming season, but the year after that. But even then, that's a little bit of a stretch, I believe. As for Langford, I think he breaks camp with the Rangers. I think he's going to be your opening day left fielder, and I think there's a high chance that the Rangers trade Leody Taveras out there in center to get some flexibility as far as their bullpen or starting staff. I think they'll try to re-sign guys like Travis Trankowski, Robbie Grossman, some low-level or low-cost outfielders that give them some speed, high-on-base guys that aren't going to cost them a whole lot, to at least give them some veteran presence if Carter falters a little bit, if Langford falters a little bit. But they're primarily looking to build up that bullpen and bring back Jordan Montgomery. If by some miracle they find enough change in the couch cushions to go after Yamamoto or OHTANI, that's absolutely gravy on top. That'd be fantastic. But I don't think they're going to have enough as far as being able to re-sign the guys that they want, bring in some bullpen help, and I think even bringing back Mitch Garver would be a very big stretch at this point. I think they're going to try to bring at least one backup catcher in at some point, but I don't think it's going to cost anywhere near the market with what Mitch Garver is going to get. I think he's probably going to get 3 years, $40-45 million on the free agent market at this point. By the way, Mitch Garver, due for a pay raise. Biggest paycheck he's gotten for a season, I believe, is like $3 million. He's deserving of it. I mean, he had 30 home runs 2 years ago in only 100 games with the Minnesota Twins. Last year, of course, or the 2 years ago, missed with injury. This past season with the Rangers was absolutely phenomenal, especially with runners on base, all those kinds of things. He should get a nice contract. Rangers going to penny pinch Craig Kimbrell, 1 year, $7 million. I would take Craig Kimbrell, if I'm a Rangers fan, and I am, I would take Kimbrell on a 1 year, $7 million deal. Am I going to ask him to close right away? Probably not. But I think he's a very good pitcher still. He's not necessarily the Craig Kimbrell that we saw with the Braves, obviously. I don't even think he's the one we saw with the Padres or the Red Sox. The one that he got that the Rangers saw with Philadelphia last year was still a good closer. He's just not necessarily the best closer in the game. I'm not sure he's still in the top 5, but he would be a good upgrade for what this bullpen had last year. And I still think they're going to look bigger. I think they're going to look for Bednar. I think they're going to try for Josh Hader. But if they end up with Kimbrell, I wouldn't be disappointed, I'll say. I just kind of like that's a marginal upgrade for them, but maybe not necessarily at the level of a Hader, obviously, or a Devin Williams or a Bednar. Those are the guys I'd be hoping for if I'm a Rangers fan. I don't know if Justin Turner is still playing, but if he is, maybe to Boston. He is still playing. He had a great resurgent year with the Boston Red Sox last year. Red Sox actually want him back. The Dodgers want him back. The Mariners are in there. The Diamondbacks are in there. Pretty much any team in need of a DH, third base, first base type of player is looking for somebody like Justin Turner. He has a good eye at the plate as well, great with process. I think he'd be a great fit at a number of locations. We'll see where he goes, but I think the market's going to wait for OHTANI as far as Turner goes, and then it's going to wait for J.D. Martinez. Then you're going to get to the Justin Turners of the world. What do you think the Phil's going to do in the bullpen? I think they're just going to add some setup guys more than anything else. I kind of penciled in what Phil Maton for them during our prediction show yesterday. I think that'd be more along the lines of what Philadelphia is going to do. They are also a little bit strapped for cash. That's why you saw Nola have to take a discount to go back to Philadelphia. They're said to still be in there for Josh Hader. I wouldn't be surprised if they brought him in, but they are a little bit tight on cash at the moment. Should Yasiel Puig come back to the MLB and go to Detroit? No. He hasn't played since 2019, has a lot of ongoing legal issues, both with the league and with the FBI, the United States federal government. Puig career is absolutely over at this point. He is not going to play again in Major League Baseball. His best market, his best chance to play is going to be overseas. He's not going to play in Major League Baseball again. Sorry. Alrighty, so the big news of the day, of course, the Yankees have acquired Alex Verdugo, the first trade between the two teams since 2014, only the 7th trade between the Red Sox and Yankees in the last 50 years. The last one in 2014 was with Stephen Drew going one way and Kelly Johnson the other, 2 middle infielders. We'll see if this trade works out for both sides. It sounds like the Red Sox got 3 right-handed pitching prospects, probably going to end up being relievers in the long run, according to Joel Sherman in his briefing on MLB Tonight after the trade was broken live on TV. But it sounds like for right now, Verdugo's got a year left to really prove himself. Really doesn't play great defense in center field, probably more of a corner outfielder at this point, but he can play center because, I mean, are you going to have Aaron Judge play center field with a bad toe that he got this past season? Or are you going to have Verdugo, who's not going to cost you a whole lot if he does get hurt in center field, whereas Aaron Judge, he's your franchise. You cannot allow him to get hurt. You have to protect him at all costs. So Verdugo would get first billing there in center rather than Aaron Judge. It sounds like they're still in the market for Juan Soto. Their offseason is totally built around Juan Soto right now. If they miss out on him, if they miss out on Yamamoto, if they miss out on Bellinger, I don't really see the free agent or trade fit that makes the Yankees a contender for next season. As it stands right now, the Texas Rangers, Houston Astros, Baltimore Orioles, Tampa Bay Rays are all probably the class of the American League. Yankees would love to get back up into that category. Brian Cashman would have you believe just from getting healthy and positive regression, they should be one of the contenders already. And then if they add Juan Soto or add another starting pitcher to the staff, they're ready to go and win a World Series again. I'm not sure how realistic Brian Cashman is being with that comment that he said during the live today when he was on MLB Network, but we'll see what happens in the long run. Welcome in, Robert. Welcome in, Farabee. Appreciate you guys joining us. Make sure you guys hit that heart in the chat if you don't mind. Certainly does help us. We're about 23, 24 viewers at the moment. Appreciate you guys joining us. Follow us over on X at UpsideSN. Robert, do you see Verdugo in on a trade for Soto to the Yankees? I wouldn't say it's out of the realm of possibility, but I would say it's highly unlikely. I think Soto going to the Yankees would be more for low-cost individuals. They're trying to trim payroll. Verdugo makes a little bit of money this coming season. Unless the Yankees are willing to eat the contract of Verdugo, I just don't see it. Plus, the 3 pitchers that they're giving up to go to the Red Sox, I'm sure the Padres would rather have had the prospects anyway than Alex Verdugo. I understand that they need a center fielder, but I think they're looking to save some more money. So we shall see what ultimately happens. Thank you, Vinny. Good show tonight. See you later. See ya. Appreciate you. Thank you guys for joining us once again. Robert, sure did, yeah. But we'll check in on some other rumors here in just a moment. Let me update our screen here. We just saw the Padres, of course, acquired Marco Gonzalez. We saw the acquisition. Yeah, there it goes. Their site's been going in and out all day for MLB trade rumors. They've got issues with their site, but we shall see. Garver to Astros, 3 years, $34 million. They're looking to start Diaz. Are you seeing that as a confirmation? Or is that another prediction? I'm guessing another prediction. Because I'm guessing Mitch Garver goes to a team like the Marlins. I'm guessing he goes to a team like the Cleveland Guardians. But if I had to guess, Garver goes to the Miami Marlins. He sounds like a perfect fit for their catcher/DH spot. Fills in there for Jorge Soler. I think that'd be a perfect fit for that team and really elevate their win total from the last year. I think he's got a great chance to elevate his career. Is Carl Edward Jr. still pitching? I believe he was. He was pitching for, I want to say the Washington Nationals last year, if I remember correctly. But Mitch Garver, my estimation, he ends up going to the Miami Marlins. All right, let's check in on some of these teams as far as free agents, if you will. This is from The Athletic, kind of the 1 through 100 of free agents that are still left. This article was published a few days before the winter meetings, just to kind of give you a rundown of where free agents are where they're at this moment. Who is the Rangers DH that is not in-house? Right now, I'd probably say that's going to be Ezekiel Duran at the moment, depending on where they flex people around. But if they trade him and bring somebody else in, maybe it goes to Justin Foscue. If you're looking for a DH from outside the organization, Brennan Belt makes some sense as a first base DH option, but he is a left-handed hitter. Nathaniel Lowe is also left-handed. I think they'd prefer more of a right-handed option at DH. Justin Turner makes some sense in that case. He could also spell Josh Young at third and Lowe at first if necessary. But we'll see what happens there. That would be my suggestion, as far as a DH from not in their own house. They've been connected to Jorge Soler before. I don't see the fit there. I just don't think he fits in the outfield. He'd be a DH only. Reminds me a lot of what Shin-Soo Choo was for the Rangers at the end. He was a great Ranger, don't get me wrong, but he was very limited from playing a field type of perspective at the end of his career more than anything else. But just to kind of run down the market here, Shohei Ohtani, the market seems to be kind of polarizing itself around the LA Dodgers and the Toronto Blue Jays. Cubs have taken a little bit of a step back, depending on who you believe. Jed Hoyer says they're still in there. The Angels are still in there. The Braves, I've heard, are still in there as well. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's another team that we haven't talked about that's in there for him as well. As far as Yamamoto goes, he's coming over next week, has meetings lined up with the Mets and Giants next week. He's 25 years old. The market for him at the outset of free agency was supposed to be $200 million. Sounds like it's up over $250 million already, according to Ken Rosenthal, and it could approach $300 million by the time he ultimately signs. Blake Snell, waiting for Yamamoto and Ohtani. Really haven't heard too much about him other than the teams that are looking for starting pitching still have him on their radar. Should Cleveland sign Adam Wainwright? He's retired. He's not coming back. He's a St. Louis guy. Cody Bellinger, great player, had a great resurgent year for the Chicago Cubs last year. Probably going to sign 8 years, 160. His market seems to be around the Chicago Cubs, the New York Yankees, and the San Francisco Giants, maybe even the Seattle Mariners. After the trade on Sunday night, Jared Kelenic, White, and Gonzalez go to the Braves in exchange for a couple of lower-level arms as well. Coar probably being the biggest piece of that, and the number 7 prospect Cole Phillips going back to Seattle. In that trade, they freed up a ton of money in the trade for Suarez and that trade there. And so this kind of opens things up to spend some money this offseason. They've got their books down to about $115 million committed for next season, so they can afford to bring in one aircraft carrier type of player, whether that be Juan Soto, Cody Bellinger, Randy Arozarena, who they've also been connected to, remains to be seen. But Bellinger is going to be a hot name on the market once Ohtani does sign. If the Halos sign Jason Alexander, I'll be okay. He's a good arm. If I remember correctly, he was a former Kansas City Royal turned LA Dodger. I don't think it really moves the needle one way or the other, though, for the Halos. 5th on the list for the Athletic is Matt Chapman. I think this is a perfect fit for the Toronto Blue Jays if they don't bring in Soto or Ohtani. I think he's just destined to end up going there, probably on a 5-year, $100 million deal. Great defensive third baseman. Has moments where his bat really plays, but the last 5 months of the year was a 206 hitter, and his bat does disappear for years at a time. Jordan Montgomery, we've talked about the Rangers being really hard in there for him, but their issue is trying to figure out the money and what else they want to do this offseason with that money. But teams are going to circle back to Jordan Montgomery, so if the Rangers don't take advantage of the position that they have now with Jordan Montgomery, just like the New York Yankees with Juan Soto, once Ohtani moves, once Soto moves, then those guys are going to get a lot more famous on the free agent market. Montgomery's teams could explode to include the New York Mets. The San Francisco Giants are said to be interested as well. The Cardinals would love to have him back. The Yankees need some starting pitching if they don't sign Yamamoto. So Montgomery's going to do very well in free agency. He and Eduardo Rodriguez are very similar pitchers on the free agent market in my estimation. The only difference is Montgomery has the playoff experience and pedigree over Rodriguez, so he might get a little bit more money, but they're very similar pitchers overall. Kiermaier, number 7 on their list. I'm not sure he's going to sign a big long-term deal anywhere, but he's a good defender still has some good base running numbers, but his numbers are starting to slip and his age is starting to show a little bit. Uh, but we'll see where he goes. Teams that need some center field help will look at Kiermaier. Do you think Josh Smith makes the big league roster next year, or do they move on to Foscue? I think the Rangers would love to move on to Foscue on the major league roster and just see if that bat plays at the major league level, which I do believe it will. They don't really have a long-term home for any of these guys, at shortstop or second base or third base. But maybe as a utility infielder, Josh Smith, when he was in the minor leagues, was a great contact hitter, hit for 280, 300 anyway when he was in the minors, came over as part of that Joey Gallo trade with the New York Yankees, and was seen as a better contact hitter, a good defender at shortstop. Wasn't going to be a huge home run type hitter, but we've seen him kind of adjust his swing to make a bigger impact in the fewer at-bats he does get. So I think if a team is looking to make a trade with the Rangers, maybe giving him a little bit more consistent run at, say, second base, somewhere where they need a high contact guy, maybe he could improve his numbers to, say, a 250, 260 hitter with some consistent playing time. I would not be surprised if that happened. So Josh Smith, great defensive player, but I just don't think he's going to stick long-term on the Rangers roster. If he does, I think it's a missed opportunity to get him somewhere to play every day somewhere else. Great individual, great human being, seen all kinds of interviews with him. Seems like a really high-character guy off the field, and he's a guy I'm certainly going to be rooting for. As a Rangers fan, obviously I root for, every single Ranger, but I'm still going to root for him, if they trade him to, say, like the Pittsburgh Pirates as part of that Bednar trade. I think that would be a great fit. Put him in that infield, let him play every day, and just see if he can, get some consistency. And I think that would be a great type of trade for both teams. Kershaw, number 8 on this list. Again, he's going to miss out on the first couple months of the season. Probably not going to be back until after the All-Star break. Maybe not even back until after the trade deadline, if he's back at all. But I think he ultimately re-signs with the Dodgers. Eduardo Rodriguez, his market is certainly robust. Turned down the trade at the deadline because he had that no-trade clause with the LA Dodgers. He decided he would rather stay in Detroit. Now he's made it very clear to teams at the winter meetings that was just that point in time type of issue. He's open to other teams. He's open to other situations. So geography is not going to limit this market for him. But I would expect teams like the Baltimore Orioles, the Cincinnati Reds, Detroit Tigers, all to be in there for his services. Teams that need some high-end starting pitching, maybe even the St. Louis Cardinals, if they decide to add a top-end starter. Mike Clevenger, haven't really heard too much about him, but I would not be surprised if he signs somewhere. 3.77 ERA last year, 24 starts. Has some injury issues in the past. Also had some off-the-field issues in the past, injury issues, etc. But are the best years of Clevenger behind him, or is he going to learn to be the next Kyle Gibson type pitcher, or does he elevate from just being healthy this offseason? So we'll see. But I think the starter market really begins with Yamamoto. Then you get into the Rodriguez, the Montgomery, the Snells. Then you get into that next class of starter, and Clevenger would be a part of that. Gurriel sounds like he's going to be one of the better corner outfielder bats on the market right now as far as free agency goes. A fit back to the Arizona Diamondbacks seems like a good fit there. Home run potential, high average, good slugging numbers, which the Arizona Diamondbacks desperately need. They have some good outfielders, but they have a number of them on free agency right now. Pham, Gurriel, Kyle Lewis all hit the free agent market, and I think Gurriel would be a good fit back with the Diamondbacks. Candelario is getting a lot of interest from a number of teams for third base help. The Nationals, the Cubs, the Mariners, the Blue Jays, the Yankees have all reached out to Candelario. High character guy, really elevated his profile with his play with the Nationals and Cubs this past season, slugging 471, 22 home runs as you can see on the screen, 2.9 WAR guy. First base, third base, DH, maybe play some left field if you really had to push him, somewhere to fit him on your roster, but he's going to be a good fit somewhere. As far as where, I think wherever Chapman doesn't go is where Candelario ends up, unless the Cubs just decide they want to upgrade their third base spot, in which case I think he goes back to the Chicago Cubs. Carlos Santana going to be a good veteran wherever he ends up going, but I think the best years are obviously behind him. It's going to be more of a veteran sign at this point late in free agency. Wade Miley, we already saw him sign back with the Milwaukee Brewers for his third stint with the team. Hector Neris pitched for the Houston Astros this past season. Pitched very well, very demonstrative on the mound as well. He'd be a good fit for anybody who needs a 7th, 8th inning type of pitcher. I think he's going to be out of the market a little bit for the Houston Astros because there's too many teams who need bullpen help. He seems like a good fit possibly for the St. Louis Cardinals to help in their bullpen. Then you get to Josh Hader. He's kind of a one-inning guy right now at this point in his career. However, that was because of how the Milwaukee Brewers used him early. He basically said, no, I'm done with this. You're not looking out for me in my career. I'm only going to pitch one inning from now on. Outside of a 1 month blip last year anyway, Hader's been absolutely dominant, around a 1 ERA. But I think if a team signs him, they probably will be able to use him for more than one inning if they signed him to a long-term deal, because then then Hader will have that long-term security. What do you do to celebrate the Rangers World Series victory? Scream and holler at the top of my lungs, celebrate. I've only seen my teams win a championship 2 times, 3 if you count the Dallas Stars back in '99. I wasn't following hockey religiously at that point, so I don't necessarily count that one because I didn't celebrate it. All I remember doing is staying up late and watching it with my dad on TV on ABC. But the teams I've gotten to celebrate, the Mavericks back in 2011, and then now the Texas Rangers. We'll see if I get more of my teams to win over the next few decades. But it was very nice to be able to see the Rangers finally win a World Series. If that's all they win, so be it. But they're absolutely fantastic to watch this year, and they're going to be even more fun to watch this coming season with a full season of Carter, with a full season, hopefully, of Wyatt Langford, and then eventually we get Jacob deGrom. We get a full season of Max Scherzer if he stays healthy. Maybe they re-sign Jordan Montgomery. Hopefully they bring in Josh Hader, and if they sign OHTANI or Yamamoto, just mind blown. But great time to be a Rangers fan. I think it's hugely underrated, but Brian Anderson to Chicago would help if they sign him. Not sure. Brian Anderson. I can't think of that one off the top of my head. Could Chapman go to Toronto? Aroldis Chapman? I think he could. I think the fit there right now, it sounds like the Baltimore Orioles are one of the few teams that's been connected to him so far as Aroldis. Matt Chapman absolutely could go back to Toronto. You think the Astros just got their catcher? Victor Caratini goes to the Astros. Report from Chandler Rome and Ken Rosenthal. Deal is pending a physical. Good backup catcher here. I think this means that Maldonado's days in Houston are done. So teams that are looking for some catching, the Cleveland Guardians and the Miami Marlins of the world, Martin Maldonado probably goes to one of those teams. Mitch Garver probably goes to the other. We'll see who ultimately gets him. I think Garver probably goes to Miami. Better bat. Maldonado, a good defensive catcher, can work with the pitching staff. That seems to be the type of catcher Cleveland has had a lot of success with over the years. But Caratini, a backup catcher at this point in his career, will back up to Diaz. Dana Brown said as much in the offseason that they're turning the page at the catcher spot from Maldonado to Diaz, get some more offense behind the plate and see what happens there. But good fit there for Houston, Caratini to Houston. As I said, we're finally starting to see the hot stove actually start to get warm at least. I mean, we're hoping to see some of these guys come off the board. We came into the winter meetings hoping OHTANI would sign some point this week, maybe on Tuesday or Wednesday at the winter meetings. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. At best right now, we're hoping OHTANI signs by the end of the week, maybe early next week. So just starting to see some of these deals start to come to fruition is very nice to see after one of the slowest starts to a winter meetings in recent memory. Next on the list here, 17, Michael Wacha. Good year last year. Pitched to a 3.22 earned run average over 24 starts, 14-4 record. Little bit surprised the Padres turned his contract down at $16 million, but he's going to be a great fit somewhere. I think he ultimately goes back to Boston. They need some starting pitching, and I don't think they're going to get some of those top-end starters. I think he gets a long-term deal there in Boston, probably 3 years, 45, somewhere in that range for Michael Wacha. Young-Ho Lee has great potential to come over, be a great center fielder. Has only a 30-day posting window because he is coming over from the KBO. KBO players only get a 30-day window, whereas NPB members get a 45-day window. So we'll see if his free agency resolves itself before Christmas. Sounds like the Giants are in that market along with the Mets. Mets are also said to be in there for Michael A. Taylor. We'll see if that happens. Rhys Hoskins, had some news about him today, is that the Chicago Cubs are looking at both a one-year deal and a multi-year deal with Rhys Hoskins. Now, we'll see what ultimately they decide to do. They obviously signed Cody Bellinger this past year to a one-year deal. Maybe they're thinking about doing a multi-year deal with Hoskins to try to get some of the upside if he does come back and be, the first baseman we all expect him to be when he comes back. But Cody Bellinger, It was a riskier contract last year because he had multiple years of poor performance with the Dodgers to go back on. There's no guarantee Bellinger would bounce back, but he is a former MVP, and this year he did bounce back, and now the Cubs are going to have to pay the piper because they didn't sign him to a multi-year deal at that time. Now for Hoskins, are they going to make that same type of contract with him, 1 year, and hope for the best? Or are they going to try to get the security of a long-term deal and see if they can capitalize on what they might see as a more sure bet than a guy like Bellinger? Then you get to number 20, Gary Sanchez, 217 hitter, is never going to be a high average type of hitter. Does come with a lot of power, though. He does not play very well behind the plate. Poor defender. Pass balls, drop balls, thrown into the outfield balls. He's not a good defender at that spot. So if you just need some power and you're desperate for it, he could be a fit for you. We've talked a lot about Justin Turner already. Probably going to sign a 1 or 2 year deal wherever he ultimately ends up going. Teoscar Hernandez, another high power guy on the market, strikes out a ton, had a great second half after struggling mightily in the first half. So which guy are you getting? Are you getting the guy that hits around 150, 200 in the first half? Or are you getting the guy that hits around 300 in the second half? He's not a great defender, doesn't have great base running skills either, but the power definitely does play, and there's no shortage of teams who need some power at the corner outfield spots. We've talked about Mitch Garver, slugged 500, 19 home runs, 134 OPS plus. He absolutely crushed against lefties. Surprisingly, though, all 19 of his home runs didn't come off of lefties. They were all off of right-handers, so we'll see where he ultimately goes. Again, my pick is the Miami Marlins. Lorenzen's going to have a going to have an injury right now in the offseason, and we'll see how he performs coming into the next season. But you could start him in your rotation. You could use him as a spot starter here and there, or you could use him as a long reliever out of the bullpen. Whoever ultimately signs Lorenzen, I think is going to get a good pitcher. It's just a matter of how patient you are with him, and don't overuse him like the Tigers and Phillies did when they at the end of that year last year. Brendan Belt really improved his numbers last year, had a great year there in Toronto. If it weren't for Joey Votto being on the market and other first basemen on the market, his contract would be a lot higher, but there's so many options on the market for first base, DH type guys, that Belt's still going to only get probably a 1 year deal, $8 million at best, somewhere around there. Think of the Jason Hayward contract as kind of a baseline for him. JD Martinez, probably the second best DH on the market, aside from Shohei Ohtani. He's 36, but his chase rates are certainly starting to go up. His strikeout numbers are going up, and his walk numbers are plummeting. They're all still good, but those are not good trends to see for a guy who's 36 years old. He loves to talk hitting, which would be great for a young team if they bring him in. But is he willing to go to a team that's going to be going through a rebuild to do so? It sounds like he's probably going to want to be in a pennant race somewhere. And are you willing to devote your DH spot to a guy that can only play DH? He's not going to play the field. He's not going to be a great base runner for you either, but he does bring power and he does drive in runs. Those are high value things that people are starting to overlook after a few years. So we will see what ultimately happens. Pardon me. Got some more updates here. Nope. Nothing too big there. Okay. Bulls Nation, Padres have another serious offer on the table for Juan Soto to believe to be the Mariners. Not surprised there. They supposedly have 4 to 5 serious offers on the table already from different teams. Not just the Yankees, not just the Blue Jays, not just the Mariners, and not just the Giants as well. But we'll see where Soto ultimately ends up going. I think he ultimately goes to the Yankees. They need him. If they don't get him, that's absolutely disappointing. But I think the Mariners would be a great fit for Soto. He would be everything they need out there in a corner outfield spot to protect Julio Rodriguez. Michael A. Taylor, we've talked in other editions of our live here, but he had a great year last year with the Twins, 20-plus home runs, great base runner, plus defender as well in center field. Strikeout numbers were a little bit high for the number of at-bats that he had, but he does bring some stellar defense to whoever is going to bring him in. I think he's going to sign a more lucrative contract than you might expect. The power numbers might have been a fluke this year, so we'll see if a team just takes a big 1 year high AAV type of gamble on him and just see if those power numbers stay and if those wheels still play. But he's a good defender out there, and center fielders are hard to come by. We'll see what happens with his market, but there's a couple of them on the trade market out there. The Brewers have a couple of them that they might be dangling out there. Leody Taveras might be available. Trent Grisham might be available as well. So center field is definitely going to be in demand, but there's certainly enough people out there to fill those spots. Seth Lugo's name was mentioned today with the Mets, with the White Sox, with the Tigers, and with the Red Sox. Red Sox supposedly are pushing hard for him, but he had a good year with the Padres this past season. 3.57 ERA when he really got a real chance to start this year, and we'll see if he goes into that rotation as well. I think both of those guys, Wacha and Lugo, could both end up in Boston and really bolster their ranks in that starting rotation behind Sale and Bayo. We talked a little bit about Soler being the fourth best DH on the market, maybe the fifth best DH on the market. 36 home runs, good slugging numbers, doesn't really base run very well, doesn't play defense very well, but he could improve somebody's offense that's desperate for it. Teams that are looking for just a jolt of power in their lineup could go to Soler. Craig Kimbrell had a down year as far as the pure dominance we saw from the Braves years and the Padres years, but still pitched fairly well. 3.26 ERA in 71 appearances, 23 saves last year. But the issues came in the postseason for Craig Kimbrell. The two failed save opportunities that he had against Arizona really cost them. I would be surprised if he goes back to Philadelphia. I think there's a number of teams out there that would love to have him, though. Do I think he's, the A-plus closer that he used to be? No. But I do think there's a legit chance that he gets somewhere and is their closer once again. Think of Aroldis Chapman, how everybody wrote him off when he went to Kansas City, but everybody knew it was an immediate trade possibility. Something like that could happen for Craig Kimbrell this year as well. Taveras and Jack Leiter for Soto rental? No, absolutely not. Not going to happen. That's $32 million that they could spend on starting pitching. Plus, you're giving up on Leiter and Taveras in the deal. Not going to happen, Melton. I like where your head's at as far as trades. I just don't like the trade target that you have there. Think pitching. Think relievers. Think starting pitching. If they're going to make a trade for a position player, they're going to want some control. And Soto, as good of a player as he is going to command $400+ million next offseason, and the Rangers aren't paying that. They could recoup some of the value in free agency, I'm sure, with a compensation pick, but that's not the trade target that they're looking for. Offense, I think they're going to be just fine with Carter moving to center, Langford moving to left, and then bringing in somebody from a bench perspective to fill out that fourth and fifth outfielder spot. Lucas Giolito's name has been popping up over the last couple of days, most notably with the LA Dodgers. He had a great year over the last few years anyway, but this past season bounced around a little bit. Guardians, Angels, White Sox, and struggled because of those hops. But we'll see what ultimately happens. Finished the year poorly after those trades, but had a good start to the year. That's why he was such a hot commodity at the trade deadline, pitching to a 3.79 ERA at the time of the trade. But after that, just ultimately did not work out. He seems like a great fit for the LA Dodgers, kind of a reclamation project for the back of that rotation. A little bit higher of a ceiling at this point in his career than Lance Lynn. I think he probably pencils in as probably a 150, 200 inning guy for them. Which is exactly what they need. They need some length out of that rotation with all the young guys that they have in it. Hold on just a second. Just saw something pop through. No. Nothing there anyway. But that's Lucas Giolito. I would expect Dodgers to be a good fit there after the OHTANI, Yamamoto, Snell, Montgomery conversation starts to die down. He could be the next guy on the totem pole for them. Vlad Guerrero Jr. as a long fit for the Rangers more than Soto. I would agree, but I don't think they're going to trade for him. I think if he's a target, it would be as a free agent and an upgrade over Nathaniel Lowe. I believe they have the same service time left, so if Nathaniel Lowe is a free agent at the same time as Vlad Guerrero Jr., maybe they decide to upgrade at that spot. Adam Frazier, good second baseman, high on base guy. Hit 240 though this past season, 13 home runs. Has a little bit of power anyway. Has a little bit of speed, but not much. We'll see where he ultimately goes, but I think as far as a steady hand at second base, kind of like a Whit Merrifield, who's also on the free agent market, a fit could be in Boston, who's been perennially searching for a second baseman. Same thing with the Seattle Mariners, but he's already been to Seattle. It didn't work there for them with Adam Frazier. Stroman had a terrible finish to his year with the Chicago Cubs. He could be another bounce-back year for the LA Dodgers as well. Maybe a one-year, $13 million deal, kind of a prove-it type of a deal. But we'll see what ultimately happens. But he did opt out of his contract with the Cubs, leaving $21 million on the table. I'm not sure he's going to get that in free agency, but maybe he just wanted out of Chicago overall. Shota Imanaga probably profiles as more of a number 3, 4 type pitcher in your rotation. Um, Iwakuma is probably the best case scenario for him. Left-hander, I think Seattle makes a lot of sense, and the Mets are supposedly in on him, as well as the Giants. I think teams that miss out on Yamamoto might end up circling back to Imanaga to fill that spot as well. But he's more of a back of the rotation starter right now, and if he catch lightning in a bottle, maybe you have a good number 2, number 3 type pitcher. Adam Duvall, great power potential, plays well in the outfield as well, wherever you deploy him, but not necessarily in center at this point. But left field, corner outfield spots work a little bit better. Has a good arm out there as well. But his contact rates are a little bit low, but he does have a lot of power. So we speculated last offseason that he could go back to the Atlanta Braves. Same thing at the trade deadline. Maybe he goes back to the Atlanta Braves. Now with the acquisition of Jared Kelenic, I'm not sure how much sense that makes. But teams that need some power, a DH type, somebody who can play the outfield, Adam Duvall could be a great fit for them as well. We've touched on Andrew McCutchen. I expect him to go back to the Pirates. I don't think he's going to sign anywhere else. Tommy Pham, good buy candidate here on the market. Had a good year last year with the Mets and Diamondbacks. Really elevated his profile with the Diamondbacks' run to the World Series. He should get a nice deal. Probably a 1 or a 2 year deal in the $15 million range. Probably is more of a fourth outfield DH type player at this point in his career, but maybe he gets an everyday job in left field or right field somewhere. Aroldis Chapman, really showed everybody they can still pitch at a high level. The walks are a concern, the stolen bases are concerned, but the fastball still plays. Teams that are said to be interested, the Baltimore Orioles, the Toronto Blue Jays, the Philadelphia Phillies, are all in there for Aroldis Chapman. The Texas Rangers, though, have not been mentioned as one of the teams that are interested in bringing him back. I think that's primarily because of the walk issues that he had last year. And Kirby Yates already has a 5.5 walk rate per 9 that they just signed. I'm not sure they want us to bring in another guy that has issues with walks. Maybe he goes to Philly. Duvall could be a fit. Good defender, might be a fit there. But they do want to get more athletic. Duvall is still athletic. Maybe a 1 year deal makes sense there for him and gives them a DH bat at times as well. Nick Martinez has already signed. He already agreed to a 2 year, $26 million deal with an option after the first year. Then you get to some of the relievers that are coming over from the NPB. Uwasua, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, had a 7.5% walk rate and a 20% strikeout rate over 170 innings. I think he probably profiles as more of a back-end starter, a long reliever out of the bullpen. Not sure you really view him as a closer, obviously, but I think he could be a nice low-cost option here on the market. Wandy Peralta, another arm that's been connected with the Yankees over the last 24 hours. John Heyman mentioning as much. It seems like his market might start to be moving. Jankowski, I've been pushing for him to go back to the Texas Rangers. I think he was just too good on that team. Really seemed to connect with the players on that team as well. I would not be surprised if he waits until the Rangers figure out their free agency, signs a minor league deal with a clause in there that says if he makes the big league club, he makes $4 million. He did something similar last year. The Rangers have a number of players that are going to have to go on the 10-day to the 60-day IL once the season starts, and Jankowski could be called up at that time. And that clause could kick in, but maybe he wants the security of a guaranteed major league contract because the issues that he had at the outset of the season last year with the Rangers. So we shall see. Great teammate, good fourth outfielder, great speed, high contact guy. Probably had the best year of his career last year. I'm just not sure how likely it is that he replicates that. But I think he gives the Rangers exactly what they need in a veteran off the bench. I think he goes back to Texas. Randall Grichuk, nobody really claimed him off of the waiver wire twice after the Angels put him on there to try to save some money towards the end of the season. I think he probably finds a home somewhere as a fourth or fifth outfielder, but he's a name that you might see go to, one of the, teams that need some veteran leadership in the outfield. Not necessarily a guy that's a, high on base guy. He's not a high performer at this point in his career. He's kind of an average MLB player. If he's going to take an opportunity from a young guy, I don't think he's going to go there. If there's an opening for an older guy to shepherd some of the younger guys along at other positions, then you bring in a guy like Randall Grichuk. But he's a guy that might be, winding down to the end of his career at this point. Adam Ottavino was on Baseball Tonight, the winter meetings coverage on ESPN the other day. He's very good as far as with the media. Great pitcher as well. He's on the free agent market. I don't think he goes back to the Mets, though. I think they're looking to improve that bullpen, sure, but I think he still sticks in the Northeast anyway. I think teams like Philadelphia, the Yankees, the Red Sox are even in play, along with the Toronto Blue Jays. If I had to guess right now, I'd say Adam Ottavino likely to the Philadelphia Phillies, along with Phil Maton. I think that'd be a couple of great arms to help bolster that bullpen in Philly. Might be something we see here in the next couple of weeks after Ohtani signs. Robert Stevenson, a good another good arm for the Rays and Pirates last year, pitched to a 3.1 ERA. But he has a lot of interest in free agency because of how he performed when he got to the Tampa Bay Rays. We'll see how what type of contract he gets, but you saw the arm really elevate with with the Tampa Bay Rays system. You might remember Eddie Rosario from the Atlanta Braves World Series run. Did not have a great finish the last year or so. Hit 255, 21 home runs, 74 RBIs. And while he's a decent player, I think that there's cheaper ways the Braves could go about that type of production. Hence the move for Jared Kelenic here. As far as where could Rosario go, I think he's more of a better version than Randall Grichuk at this point on the market, but not much. So where could he go? Teams that need corner outfielder. Maybe he goes back to the Guardians. They're perpetually in need of power at the corner outfield spots. Maybe he goes back to Cleveland once again. Phil Maton, good middle reliever for the Astros the last couple of years, pitched to a 3.0 earned run average over 66 innings last year. Had a 1 WAR last year, but I don't think he goes back to Houston. I think his contract's going to be too rich there. I think the Astros are going to try to turn that bullpen a little bit to save a little bit of money. And the Astros just don't re-sign their own guys. We've seen this over and over and over again. Gurriel, Correa, Springer, Cole, Verlander, the list goes on as far as Astros that are no longer there. And I think Maton is the next casualty of that. Appreciate you joining us, Mark. You have a good one. And we'll probably wrap this up here in the next couple of minutes here. We'll just get to number 50, and then we'll call it a night. But James Paxton, left-handed pitcher, good starter, but he always comes with injury issues. The final few starts of his season last year, almost a 7 ERA, tells you he really ran out of gas. And I wonder if the injury, the lack of pitching the last few years really caught up with him. So maybe you're getting the big maple to, be a little bit better this coming season after he's had another full off season to recover from those injuries. I'm not sure he's a, 1, 2, or 3 anymore, but I think if you're counting on him as a potential to be a, number 4 pitcher who can pitch like a number 2 at times, then you might make a chance or take a chance on him. Kirby Yates just signed with the Texas Rangers. Pitched to a 3.28 earned run average last year, 80 strikeouts, good for 11.9 per 9 innings. He's not going to be a multi-inning reliever anymore. He was at one point in his career like Josh Hader, but I don't think he's going to be used as such with Texas. I think he's probably going to be used as the 7th or 8th inning guy. I think Josh Sborz really elevated himself last year with his performance, closing out the Rangers World Series. I think he has a chance to be the 8th inning guy. Jose Leclerc right now is penciled in as the closer, but if they bring in Bednar, if they bring in Hader, obviously those guys go to the 9th inning role. Last right now for what we're going to go through right now is Zach Greinke. I think if he re-signs with the Kansas City Royals, that's probably about all that happens for him. He is destined to be a GM one day. I think he's going to be the next Chris Young wherever he ultimately goes. He's very invested in whatever the team does from a signing standpoint, from a free agency standpoint, especially from the draft standpoint. He's interested in the business aspects of baseball. He's been basically mentored by every single GM that every team that he's gone to. He's been mentored by their GM as a front office executive in almost every spot he's been in, with the Dodgers, with the Diamondbacks, with the Astros, with the Royals, even with the Brewers, I believe. We'll see what happens with Zach Greinke, but I think he ultimately goes back to Kansas City for one final year. They need starts. He's only 21 strikeouts away from 3,000, as you can see on the screen. I think he gets it, but I think by the middle of the year, I think we're basically saying goodbye tour for Zach Greinke, and then he transitions in the next phase of his career. But appreciate you guys joining us tonight. In case you guys missed it, the big headlines, of course, Alex Verdugo goes from the Boston Red Sox to the New York Yankees. First trade since 2014 between the two teams, only the 7th in the last 50 years. Marco Gonzalez gets traded from the Atlanta Braves to the Pittsburgh Pirates, along with cash for a player to be named later. We saw Kirby Yates sign with the Texas Rangers. Chris Davinsky has signed back with the Tampa Bay Rays as well. Those are some of the biggest transactions of the day. Hopefully we have some more transactions for you in the overnight hours. But if we see any breaking news, we'll be sure to let you guys know as quickly as possible. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. Hit the like on the video, hit the hearts in the chat if you appreciated all the content, and make sure you join us for the finale of the winter meetings tomorrow night as we wrap up all the rumors of all the different teams from around Major League Baseball. And then don't forget, we will be live for you guys every single weekday evening to give you all the latest from the MLB hot stove season. Y'all have a great evening, and we'll see you again tomorrow night.